Welcome everyone to a special edition, special hour of Random Topics with Gavin Richard on Gavin Richard Presents here on channel Gbu2786, Facebook Live on my self-entitled channel Gavin Richard, as well as the Gavin Richard YouTube page, and we're on Periscope at Gav Emrich 2786. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe. Usually we do this earlier, but I've got a little errand to make later this evening, and I was privileged to have our brother and friend of the channel, Mr. Shawn James. Come on, Shawn, what's up, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine, brother. I'm doing good. Thank you for coming on an early notice today. And you guys, Shawn has, of course, he is the uh, right. He's an author. He's also the creator of the SJS Direct, which has over he hosts have about 75 plus self-published books, including the John Haynes series. And John Haynes Taking Care of Business, which is out now on Amazon.com. I'm going to put the link up as soon as I can get the my other tab working because I'm trying to put that up for Shawn. But Shawn, tell us a little bit about the book too. I want to ask you, how have the sales been since it dropped last Saturday?
Well, the sales have been fairly strong, and I only need one more sale to break into double digits. So if one person out there picks up the book today, we will be breaking double digits, and I'm trying to get more sales for John Haynes Taking Care of Business.
Okay. And so the book, you say one more and you get some double digit sales, but everything so far is good. Now, how many Haynes series, part of the John Haynes series, how many books do you have under that?
Well, well, the John Haynes series has four books in it, and it takes place after two other John Haynes books, The Temptation of John Haynes and The Man Who Rules the World. So technically, there are six books overall featuring the John Haynes character, but there are four books in the series that started in 2018.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Cool, cool, cool.
And you can pick up books in the John Haynes series on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. So,
All right. Sorry about that, man. I'm getting some computer trouble right here. Uh, so everybody can take a look. Actually, I'm gonna just share the screen right here. I got some good news to share too, because this stuff where my computer keeps kicking me in and out is gonna end because I was able to be blessed with some new equipment. So that'll be going up very soon in the future. So that way we won't have any more interruptions with anything. But this is where you guys can check out John Haynes Taking Care of Business. This is on Google. So let's go ahead and smash up the likes for Shawn. We're gonna put that in. I just did that for him, and y'all can go and buy John Haynes up on Amazon.com. You also have him on Brookline Booksmith, so you can find this just about anywhere on the internet, wherever books are sold. So shout out to our brother Shawn. King Bernard is in there building. Rosalind, I see you. Yes, Rosalind. Thank you. A new computer. Yeah. So I didn't. I actually just came from the store to get it. I just didn't get a chance to set it up before everything. So I was trying to surprise everybody. But yeah, man. But it'll be back and up and running for the next live stream. But let's get into what is really going on today. I want to talk about this, Shawn. I know we talked about it last week with regards to Houston, Texas quarterback Deshaun Watson. Apparently, there has been another. We talked about uh, Deshaun Watson being blackmailed by Houston lawyer Tony Busby last week, and now it's coming out that Deshaun Watson's own manager is saying that he was contacted by someone who is trying to blackmail Deshaun Watson. Essentially, he was his manager. I have the article linked on Brian. claims that he's talking about Deshaun faced blackmail attempt from accusers. This is according to Houston Public Media. It says a manager for Houston Texas quarterback Deshaun Watson said the NFL star faced a blackmail attempt from one of the women now accusing him of sexual assault, according to a sworn affidavit that was made on Tuesday or released this Tuesday. The woman demanded $30,000 for her indefinite silence on a consensual sexual encounter with Watson, says the affidavit. The document reads. The affidavit was submitted by Watson's marketing manager, Brian Burney, who said he believed the woman to be the female masseuse that Watson was accused, allegedly forced to perform oral sex during a massage session in December 2020. Burney said that in the affidavit that he spoke with the woman and a new man claiming to be her business manager. I asked her what she would be silent about and whether anything had happened with Deshaun against her will, the affidavit reads. She said, confirmed that everything that occurred was consensual during her encounter with Deshaun. The December 2020 incident is detailed in the third of now 16 lawsuits filed against Watson, filed on behalf of the women by Houston lawyer Tony Busby. Busby responded to the claims within the affidavit via Facebook Tuesday night. Alleged sexual misconduct is serious, he wrote. Attempting to criminalize or minimize those that speak out or step forward is wrong. To go further, it says, so he's got a series of lawsuits. A 15th lawsuit was for October 2020, claiming that told the woman to go deeper on his massages, and the woman said Watson allegedly paid her only a third of what she was owed. And then her last lawsuit says that Watson exposed himself inappropriate touching, and he ejaculated on a female masseuse during a massage session at his home in May of 2020. And all of this is going on when COVID-19 happened, so I find that suspicious. But Sean,
Yes.
what you've done a video on this, but I want to know what you think so far with what's up, Steve? What's up, Vulcan 2054? What do you think so far from just reading that article?
Well,
Uh,
I'm thinking that this whole thing is really suspect because none of this all came up until your Deshaun Watson asked for a trade. And
right.
that's the only reason why we're getting all these allegations. And I find it again quite suspect that your Tony Busby is a friend of the owner of the Houston Texans. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got these allegations being made by these women, but these women are connected to a lawyer who's connected to the owner. And it looks like they're trying to, again, like I said in my video, they're trying to demonize him the same way that the San Francisco 49ers and the NFL tried to demonize Colin Kaepernick, but they're trying to demonize Deshaun Watson in a different way because they know how badly it backfired in the case of Colin Kaepernick, and it actually made him out to be a martyr. But in this case, what they want to do is make your Deshaun Watson into a modern day black brute, and they want to make him a modern day black brute because that's going to make him look like a bad guy. But what really makes their whole case fall apart is the fact that they're going in civil court and not criminal court. Now, if your
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson is this much of a sexual predator, the critical question I have to ask is why are all of these women only going through civil court and filing civil lawsuits? Why aren't they going out here and looking to file criminal charges? And why are they looking for cash settlements first if this man is such a dangerous sexual predator as they allege? Why are they not going to try to put this man in prison so he can't harm other people? Why are they looking for a cash settlement? And why is their lawyer looking for a cash settlement in civil court where a case can be judged based on the preponderance of the evidence instead of trying to get this man convicted on a case of reasonable doubt? Now, that's the critical questions I have to ask as related to Deshaun Watson, because when I look at his story, the stories that they're presenting about him is extremely fishy. because where do 15 women come out of nowhere with an allegation and there's not one single police report? I mean, if this man
Yeah.
is that much of a sexual predator, you would think there would be one police report out of 15 women. And again, it's quite fishy that this is coming out of a trade proposal that Deshaun Watson has made as related to him leaving the team. It's only when he leaves the team that all these allegations come out. But when he's on the team, everything is fine. So I'm looking at the NFL and I'm looking at it and I'm going, hey, it looks like you're try to break this man down so that he cannot get any sort of economic value for himself. You want him to be a slave on your NFL plantation. As long as he's throwing that football for you, everything is fine. But if that man decides to say, hey, I want to make some more money, then you want
Right.
to go out here and make him into a criminal and you want to
And
make him into a bad guy.
And Bob McNair actually said something. I'm glad you brought that point up about the plantation, because Bob McNair himself, who was the Houston Texans quarterback before, owner and manager of the team before he died, he actually said, "We can't have the inmates run the asylum," referring to the anthem protest. And a lot of people called him out for those statements. And I think it's interesting that all of this is coming out, especially when he's demanding a trade from a horrible team. I
Yeah,
mean, Texans, I don't know if you follow football, but I said this last week. They actually had a chance to go to the AFC Championship with Deshaun Watson when they played the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round, and they blew a 21-point lead.
yeah.
So he's obviously frustrated. He wants to go somewhere else, and he's not getting it. And now they're coming up with these, salacious charges. I don't know how people are in their private life, but the man is innocent till proven guilty. And the fact
Yes.
that they're just throwing this out with no proof, no evidence. In fact, the Houston Police Department has says that they have never been contacted by anyone, not even Busby, as to him having some type of evidence that this man committed a crime.
So if there are no police reports, then I would say that there were no assaults. Because if this was the case, again, 15 women, you would think there would be one woman to file some sort of police report in that time frame. And again, this is the COVID-19 pandemic going on. And if this is going on, police would be contacted in the case like this. And I just find it, again, interesting that all of this only comes up when he asks for a trade. And again, it's seeming like these NFL owners are proving Colin Kaepernick's point. Now, I don't like Colin Kaepernick, but he made a point about these NFL owners being extremely racist. And when we look at what's happening with Deshaun Watson, they are showing how racist they are because, oh, when the black man, he's good to play ball on the team as a black buck, but when the black man starts to make demands and demand to be treated like a human being, they want to strip him of his manhood and try to put him in the role of a slave
Why?
again.
Yeah. Why don't you like Kaepernick? Is it because, in particular, is it because of you felt that he wasn't sincere?
Well, yeah, I did not feel that he was being sincere as related to his kneeling protest. I felt that he was being disingenuous. And I felt that he was trying to get this trade. I mean, he was trying to do the same thing that Deshaun Watson was trying to do, but the whole thing was that he tried to put identity politics in front of it to make it look like he was this pro black guy. But if he had come out like Deshaun Watson did, he did receive the same type of demonization, but the whole thing was it was his approach to things.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, I mean, I think that, that being said, still, I feel Kaepernick, I think clearly he got railroaded by the NFL.
Yeah, they did railroad him. They did set
He
him
had,
up.
yeah. Lady Ruler says that I'm late, but there may be some physical evidence according to Yahoo News. What could that be since I thought no one went to the hospital? Well, you would have to see exactly what we have to see. Number one, what is the physical evidence? Uh, if you're talking about a rape kit, if you're talking about things with, you would have to, first of all, if someone were raped or sexually assaulted, you can take pictures, obviously, of a person's or female's and this kind of graphic genitalia. They can do DNA tests to see if that person's sperm and so forth was inside or their saliva, things of that nature. However, those types of tests, while they may show that a person's DNA is there, doesn't necessarily mean that rape was committed. It's based off of the nature of the physical evidence and also who's telling who believes whose side of the story. Because there have been situations where there are women who are engaged in sex with another man and they do rough stuff. And if they consent to it, well, necessarily, does that constitute as rape? No. The fact that my DNA is inside another woman, does that mean I committed rape? No. Kobe Bryant was accused of rape, and when they looked at the woman who, uh, alleged victim who was saying this, they looked at and took her clothes. They found that she had about three or four semens from four different men there. Now, what Kobe was able to prove, and this happened at the trial, was that the woman actually had sex with him. And during sex, or sometimes at the end of it, she complained saying that it was too painful. And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And that was the end of it. And you can actually go read that article, because Kobe, they always say that he raped this woman. Remember what your Evan Rachel Wood and your
Yeah.
Abigail Disney was saying about Kobe Bryant being a rapist. And I mean, Kobe Bryant wasn't even dead within 24 hours when they were making these comments. His daughter, him, not just him, but his daughter dying, as well as the other 8 people that died in that helicopter. You're essentially saying that you were okay with all of them dying. Basically, if you feel it's bad that, or you don't feel sad that he's dead, you're basically trying to justify everything.
Yeah, there are a lot of cold, cruel white people out there, white women. They're angry and they want to make not Colin, Kobe Bryant into the bad guy, and they want to make all black men into the bad guy because they see all black men as the same. They see all black men in the same way, and they want to demonize the image of black men, and that's what they were trying to do with Kobe. That's what they were trying to do with this Deshaun Watson. They just
Bill
want to push,
Cosby,
yeah, Bill Cosby. They all
Michael
see,
Jackson, yeah.
yeah, they see black men as one big, as one of what Mad Voodoo Man, aka the Iceman, calls them, one big penis, and they think black men are all parts of sexual predation, but that's not the case at all. And whenever they want to tear down a black man, they come in and try to make the black man out to be some sort of sexual predator so that they can have a justification for trying to destroy this black man and take away his economic wealth. And the main thing they want to do is keep that black man from having economic power because they know that if a black man has the right mind and economic power, he can go out here and have an impact on his community.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, I had my issues even with Kobe Bryant because I remember when Trayvon Martin was killed, he said some slick things. Jim Brown even said that if the convention of black athletes happened like he did when Muhammad Ali was in trouble and he had athletes like himself, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown, Bill Russell, those guys, he said Kobe would not be on the list. But nevertheless, I know when someone is being set up. I
Yeah,
may not agree with Bill Cosby on everything he said with his pound cake speech, but the man also is an elder and has put his money where his mouth is. He's given more monies to black colleges and universities than any other celebrity outside of Michael Jackson. So I just know I like people to be treated fairly. I know when something is a setup, and this smells like a setup.
this is definitely a setup. I will agree with you there. This is a setup. I mean, and it's a bad setup at that because we can see how clearly this is a setup because
Yes, that's
again,
correct, Lady Ruler. I'm sorry.
again, when a guy asks for a trade and the first thing that comes out is an allegation of a sex crime, that shows us that yes, this is a setup, and everybody just has to look at the pattern with Colin
And
Kaepernick.
this is extortion too.
Yeah, and
This is
extortion.
extortion. If she sent money, if she sent a memo, I got to interrupt you, Sean. But if you send a
Yeah,
memo asking for money to blackmail someone, that's extortion. That's against the law.
yeah,
Now, and that actually happened with Bill Cosby when Autumn Jackson accused Bill Cosby of being her father and wanted some money out of it. His attorneys contacted the FBI because the moment she sent that fax to Cosby's lawyers, that was extortion.
Yep. And it's just clear evidence of it.
Yeah, if this is true. So yeah, man. But you were saying something and I interrupted you. I'm
No,
sorry.
that's okay. I already said what I was going to say.
If he is such a deviant, why don't the Texans release him under the character clause? That's a good point. That's a damn good point. I mean, Antonio Brown got released last year from the year before that from the Patriots when this was going on. When he got accused of stuff, they released him. They got tired of it. Uh, and he was now playing for Tampa Bay. I think he's a free agent at this point, and won a Super Bowl. So it tells you a lot about even the NFL that they talk about protecting women, but they will let these guys play and so forth.
As long as they're making money on the
Money,
deal, they have no problem with them playing.
right?
But it's when they start trying to make money for themselves and they start making profits for themselves, they got a problem. And when they start wanting to make choices about their career, that's when they really start having problems with these players. As long as they're slaves on the plantation, tap dancing and chasing women,
Skinning and
and
grinning.
yeah, buck dancing and bojangling, they're fine with them. But the minute you start talking about, oh, I want to be able to have a say over the money. I want to have a say over the plays. I want to have a say in things, and I want to talk about building wealth. Excuse me. That's when they have a problem with you, and that's when they want to get rid of you.
Yeah, most definitely. Remember, the Steelers didn't get rid of Ben Roethlisberger when he had his free rape charges.
Nope. And Chad Wheeler would probably be playing if he hadn't done things to that extreme.
Yeah, yeah, and they haven't talked too much about him. In fact, I think they've called. People have been calling Jamel Hill out because she was quiet about it. Even this thing with Deshaun Watson, people have. I saw on Twitter something was trending where they were calling out all of these black boot. I'm gonna just say it. I'm not gonna mince my words. These black bootlicks,
Yeah,
because all they do is use their platform to talk down on black men. Frankly, I get sick of it.
they
Because
always
what do
wanted
they say? Because what are they saying about? What they're basically talking about you, me. They talk about my nephews, my father, my brother when they do that.
to. Yeah, they want every black man to be seen the same as a bad guy.
Yeah, most definitely. The okay. The next topic I got uh is Biden attacking the Fourth Amendment. Sean, I'm gonna send something to you in a private chat, and if you could, since I have my computer trouble, and I swear this will not happen again, guys. uh, if you could share that link. This is coming from Forbes. This is a article from Forbes.com where the Biden administration is urging the Supreme Court to let cops enter homes and seize guns without a warrant. This is a case called Caligula versus Storm, and Caligula versus Storm. Caligula, just like the Roman emperor, and essentially what's happening in that case is I'll just give you the guys the rundown of it. What happened? The Biden administration has filed what's called an amicus brief, along with seven other attorney generals across the across the United States. And what they're trying to do essentially is uphold a district court decision where this man's guns were taken from him by the police. According to the facts of the case, this elderly couple were having an argument, and during the argument, the husband pulled out a gun. He didn't point it at his wife or anything, but he laid it on the table, and they were all having, arguments and issues. And he told her, "Just shoot me already, or let me go." And he drives off. She gets upset. She goes looking for him and calling him. He doesn't answer the phone. Sean, did you get that?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Could you share it, please?
All
So
right,
everyone.
all right. Let me put
That's
it.
right. They see it. Yeah, they see it, black people as one big nigga. That's what Ice T said, actually.
See if I can print this.
And essentially, what happened, long story short, she calls the police, and they do a wellness check at the house where this couple lives. The guy says he's fine, he's not suicidal. Eventually, the cops come in and they took his guns. Now he's claiming that he did not give them permission to take his guns. And even if you read the article, the cops lied about that, saying that they had consent to take the guns. Now the Fourth Amendment, uh, he never got his guns back until he filed federal lawsuits in as well as state lawsuits in court. Oh, I just need you to share the screen.
Okay, well, so I'm not too familiar with it, so
Oh, okay. Well, let me do this. Hold on.
all right.
All right. Before it crashes, it's gonna. But essentially, you guys can go look at this article here. This is Forwards.com. Y'all can see where it says Biden administration urges Supreme Court to let cops enter homes and seize guns without a warrant. Caniglia versus Strom. I said Storm, excuse me, versus Strom. You can look it up. The Biden administration, if you click on this hyperlink, it has the Supreme Court document. You can look at it. It's only 41 pages. There's nine, I said seven, but there are actually nine attorney generals, and they're urging the Supreme Court to uphold warrantless gun confiscation. Now, she called the police, as I stated earlier, and they took the guns. And in fact, one of the officers later admitted he did not consult any specific psychological or psychiatric criteria or medical professionals for his decisions that day. The day that the officers asked Edward about factors relating to his risk of suicide, risk of violence, or prior misuse of firearms. So they went in there, and after refusing and insisting that his mental health wasn't their business, Edward agreed only after police falsely promised they wouldn't seize his guns while he was gone. Well, they did that. They did just that. And when police seized the guns, they didn't claim it was an emergency or to prevent imminent danger. By the way, I don't know what, I think you all can guess what color he is because he's alive. Uh, they didn't claim it was an emergency or to prevent imminent danger. And they're claiming an exception to the Fourth Amendment, where the officers argued their actions were a form of community caretaking. Now, that was a standard set by the Supreme Court nearly 50 years ago, which was designed for cases, but that exception was designed for cases involving impounded cars and vehicles and highway safety. We call it the automobile. Okay, guys, I swear this is the last time. We're back. Sorry, but I'm going to get out of here. But essentially, it violates the Fourth Amendment. And the Fourth Amendment, of course, Sean, protects you and yours from unreasonable searches and seizures, right? So,
Yeah,
unreasonable searches and seizures of your persons, places, effects, and your homes. What this does essentially, what the Biden administration is trying to do, is find a narrow exception to that Fourth Amendment, because even with the Fourth Amendment that prevents from unreasonable searches and seizures, you have to have a warrant to enter a home under normal circumstances. If there is, it has to be signed by a judge, detached magistrate, and it has to be supported by an affidavit asserting probable cause. Now, there are exceptions to that. There are various exceptions, including consent, meaning you let the officers in. There's consent, there's automobile, there's evanescent circumstances, there's exigent circumstances. Exigent meaning if there is some type of life threatening emergency, or even if there is a threat to evidence being destroyed, police officers can and do seize things or enter in a home without a warrant. Uh, I don't think that they had probable cause to seize any weapon, especially if they didn't do a mental health evaluation in this case. But yet, your president, your president is doing this against Edward Caniglia and really against the United States. If the Supreme Court were to make this decision, it says here in this paragraph from Forbes that fear is not that extending the community caretaking exception to homes would be an anathema to the Fourth Amendment because it would grant police a blank check to intrude upon the home. That fear is not unwarranted. In jurisdictions that have extended the community caretaking exception to homes, everything from loud music to leaky pipes have been used to justify warrantless invasion of the home. A joint amicus brief by the ACLU, the Cato Institute, and the American Conservative Union revealed. Um, and again, the community caretaking exception applied to, for instance, automobiles that needed to be impounded on the highways because, some people leave their cars on the road. If, people were leaving their cars broken down on highways and stuff, and it could be a traffic accident waiting to happen, have to pull over. So, Shawn, just your thoughts on this, because we're not hearing a lot, especially from the Biden sexuals as of late.
This is a really bad case. It's just one of the worst things I'm seeing as related to take really stepping on the rights of American citizens. Really, this is the start of a slippery slope as I see it, because these cases really, when you look at the interpretation of the law, this doesn't really have anything to do with guns. I mean, if we look at the interpretation of the law, it's supposed to be about officers gaining entry to deal with things like a person who might be destroying evidence or might be possibly in the commission of a crime or might possibly be in distress. So, how does that relate to firearms? That's the critical question people need to ask, because these two things don't really go together. They don't really correlate with each other. And when you look at the law and how it's being misinterpreted, it just doesn't really look like it's about doing what's in the best interest of we the people. It's about trying to disarm citizens and keep them from having their legal firearms. This is about trying to manipulate the Fourth Amendment on technicality to undermine the Second Amendment. And this type of interpretation of law is something people need to push back on, because it's looking like Joker Joe is trying to take people's gun rights away. And again, why is there such a focus on taking people's gun rights away when it's guns are not really as big an issue as people want to make them out to be? I mean, when I look at the situations as related to firearms, it's not legal firearms that are doing much of the damage. It's one, illegal firearms, and then two, legal firearms in the hands of these beta males that come from single mother households, men who have very poor life skills, poor discipline, poor self-control. But this man, again, when I'm looking at his case, it taking away his guns has nothing to do with this whole amendment. And again, it looks like there's some sort of underhanded agenda at hand here that most Americans need to really think about. And it really shows me again how this people voting for this Biden administration was a grave error.
It was a grave error and mistake. And say what you want about Donald Trump. Donald Trump was not, he wasn't always Second Amendment friendly, because there were things he did with the ATF. But what Biden is talking about pales in comparison to what Donald Trump's administration has done. If he's gets his way to actually ban high capacity magazines and to also allow for the warrantless entry of police officers to seize weapons, uh, that's a dangerous slope. This is almost a Third Reich.
Yeah, this is the
This
type
is
of
a
stuff
Third Reich action. Yeah,
the
it's Third
U.S.
Reich nonsense.
It's like slowly turning into a fascist state. But and the sad part is Americans are allowing it to happen. It's just like what Albert Einstein said: all it takes for evil to win is for good people to do nothing. But what's scary here about America is you have people who actually think that they're good and they're just doing great evil, and they're allowing evil to win. So that's this really scary part about these policies and stuff, is that you've got people who think that they're doing good, but they're doing just such great evil out here, and they're getting ready to undermine the fabric of our country. And that's the scary part. That reminds me a lot of the Roman Empire, in that it wasn't really the Rome. It wasn't the Ostrogoths and the Visigoths that destroyed Rome. It was really the Romans themselves who imploded their own country before the Ostrogoths and Visigoths got a hold of it.
Yeah, and it's like I think right now uh, it's safe to say that the United States. You said it already. I think the United States is moving further and further into uh, a fascist country. I think we're moving forward to the New World Order now, especially if they take guns away, if they're able to enter in your homes and they can do this to a white man, we're screwed.
Yeah, because then it's not just guns they want to take. They will start taking people. Anybody who disagrees with them. It's just like when I was in junior high school. You would have these people, whoever they disagreed with, they wanted to destroy, and they would just use these things as a reason to just go out here and destroy anybody they disagreed with. And this is the sad road we're headed to. And the sad thing is, we're supposed to be the country that's supposed to be about freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and the great sad irony is that even in the freest society where we have this information superhighway and all this technology, people are just throwing away their freedom and taking their lives for granted. And they're willing to destroy the fabric of this great country because they just want to be so called safe. And the thing is, they want to be safe from who? And that's the critical question I have to ask. Who do you want to be safe from? Because the people who you are trying to trust and protect you seem like they're the same type of people who are trying to oppress you.
Yeah. Let's move into the what Biden called for at his press conference this past Tuesday. He called for tougher gun control laws, in particular, a ban on high capacity magazines in the wake of the shootings in Colorado and in Atlanta. He talks about how it's been done before and that we could do it again. Of course, what he's referring to is the ban on high capacity magazines, but that ban was only for 10 years. Uh, Personally, I think it's a bad idea, especially as a owner of an AR-15 myself. And we've talked about these bills that have been passed, or not at least have not been passed, but have been proposed rather, as in House Bill 127. Um, what First off, I guess we can talk about the shooting and then the gun laws itself, and in particular Biden's comments. What were your thoughts on what happened in Boulder, Colorado, first off, and what Biden is proposing?
Well, I was deeply saddened about what happened in Boulder, Colorado, but on doing my own research on what happened in Boulder, Colorado, I found out that this really was not a gun control issue. This was really an issue of racism and a male who just his mental health deteriorated because he had never really been taught about racism. He was one of these Syrian migrants who had come here and he thought he was going to live the American dream. And then he ran into all of this racism in this democratic state. And what happened was he could not deal with all of that racism he encountered, all of that rejection he encountered. And that's what led to him simmering and boiling in anger and eventually exploding in a rage. This is something that the media isn't talking about because in that left leaning state, they want to talk about how tolerant they are and how accepting they are. But in actuality, this boy, the reason why his mental health deteriorated was because he was in an environment he thought he was going to be accepted and be one of the people, but then he was rejected, and that's what led to him falling into withdrawing and then turning into this recluse who practically was living in this echo chamber where he was just dealing with all of this trauma, and it led to his mental health deteriorating, and he wound up exploding in this rage. So a lot of people want to turn this into some sort of gun control issue, but this really was not a gun control issue because, again, this male bought his weapons legally and he passed all of the background checks. And in this state, like New York here and many other left leaning states, had some of the strictest gun control laws. But because this male never had a criminal record and never had any sort of mental health issues on file, he was able to pass the background check like many other mass shooters out here. So this practically destroys the argument that many on the left have as related to more gun control laws. I mean, here's another state, just like the state that Adam Lanza came from, super strict gun control laws, but yet this beta male gets access to these weapons, and they don't want to look at the situation of his life. And when I did the research into the situation of this male's life and heard about the traumas he experienced, I saw where it was him being a male in crisis that led to him participating in that shooting. And no amount of legislation was ever going to stop what was going to happen. I mean, you can ban all the high capacity magazines, all the high capacity round. It's not going to stop these guys because these males are filled with rage. And if they can't use one weapon, they'll just adapt and go find another weapon to destroy the lives of others because these men are suffering. And the whole thing is, most people don't want to really deal with this man crisis. No, they'd rather talk about these gun control laws because it's all part of trying to use these males' traumas as agendas. But the whole thing is, we have a man crisis in this country, and nobody really wants to deal with this man crisis, like I talk about in depth in my book, The Man Crisis. Nobody wants to deal with this 2 to 3 generations of ticking time bombs. And the reason why we're having all these shootings is because we've raised these boys in a dysfunctional fashion. And we want to talk about, oh, we're going to put these gun control laws in place. But what most Americans need to understand is that during the 10 years we had the assault weapons ban, mass shootings went up in this country. And those mass shootings went up because most of these boys who were growing up in these single mother households and divorced households were starting to simmer and boil in this rage, growing into frustrated about their manhood, and then seeing that they couldn't make life work in the world. So they went out here taking these weapons to go destroy the world around them.
Yeah, and most definitely that is a man crisis that's in this country. I thought that this was I see it, especially with what's going on. But I think it's common when people see bad things happen, they're in a rush to just give up and surrender their
Yeah.
rights. This has nothing to do with gun control. This has to do with people control.
Yeah.
This has to do with men being men, men
Yeah.
who are not men anymore. And I don't think there's no law on the books that's going to end murder.
No.
We've had laws against murder for years. People still find a way to do it because they have free will.
Yeah.
They have free will, and like I tagged you in that post of where a friend of mine was talking about suing gun manufacturers. I think that would be even a bigger mistake because while there is a shortage of blacks who are in uh, the gun sale business, and it is a very profitable business. It's also very racist because they
Yeah.
try to keep blacks from not only making that money but being able to acquire guns. Uh, it would hurt them, especially if they're coming along. I want to put up if I wanted to put up even a shooting range, things of that nature in certain areas, they may fight against that, like they try to do here in New Orleans
Yep.
and other liberal states. But yeah, but what do you say though about Biden's gun control plans to ban high capacity magazines and AR-15s?
That's a ridiculous thing to do because all Joker Joe has to do is look back at history. I mean, he proposed this assault weapons ban back in the 90s, and what did we see happen in the 90s? We saw an increase in these mass shootings. We saw an increase in homicides. We saw an increase in shootings, and this was even after the assault weapons ban. And again, all we have to do is look at the statistics and we can see how the assault weapons ban failed because why did we have incidents like Columbine and Paducah and all these other mass shootings?
Right.
I mean, these
And these are
all,
all in Colorado.
yeah,
The Aurora, Colorado was during the screening of the Batman movie.
yeah.
This is in Colorado. Columbine was in Colorado.
And all again left-leaning state, and also there was one in Arkansas, mass shooting during the 90s. And I remember hearing so many mass shootings during the 90s. And again, assault weapons ban was in place, but nobody wanted to look at the state of these families and how these boys were struggling and suffering because either they came from single mother households or divorced households. And nobody really wanted to look at the statistics as related to single mothers and how these boys grow up wayward. Because when we look at the statistics, 80% of all the felons, they come from single mother households. But to look at those single mother households means we have to point a finger at the woman. And most people in America don't want to look at women and hold them accountable for the dysfunctional way boys were being raised in this country. And the party that created the welfare state doesn't want to really deal with the failure of their policies that they created in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that led to all of the rise of these single parent households and divorce households. They don't want to deal with the policies they created because that would point a finger directly at them. And Joe Biden doesn't want to point a finger at his own party as related to the numerous failures they established and created, like the welfare state, the no fault divorce, which is partially Richard Nixon, and again, the rise of the single mother household. They don't want to talk about how this impacted the American family, how this created the socially engineered beta male, and how
Yeah.
this socially engineered beta male, he just is not able to function in society, and how him not being able to function in society has created a male who is just a ticking time bomb and is basically a human landmine. And it's a matter of not only if he goes off, it's a matter of when he goes off and how much damage he does. I mean, I just did a story today on a guy who murdered one of his classmates. He just finished high school a couple of months ago, and he was a ticking time bomb. He had pipe bombs in his home with his father. He had all sorts of weapons, and he was planning a mass shooting, but he was, thank God, sadly thwarted by a murder investigation. And they found all this stuff before they could get to it. But he was from a divorced household. And a lot of these people, they don't want to look at that part. Your Joe Biden doesn't want to look at that part of things because, again, it points that finger directly back at him and his party and the policies that they implemented across this country that have done so much damage to the American family.
Yeah. So, yeah, most definitely. That's a very good point. And, I'm thinking of this too. What happened, like, for instance, I was shocked with what happened in New Orleans a few weeks ago in Jefferson Parish when they were at the Jefferson gun outlet. And there was a shooting there where this man killed two people. And this was a black man that did it. They actually found, I didn't think it was because they usually will plaster the brother's picture
Oh, I saw the
the
video on
minute
that
that
one.
yeah,
People
I know.
sent
I
me,
saw the video too, but the video, what I'm saying is, when it initially happened, they didn't release the video
yeah,
until a few days later. So I thought typically they hide those things, and when it's a white man, because even this shooter, they didn't show him too much on CNN or on CBS News or anybody or NBC anybody until recently. And so now we're seeing, they're trying to, and of course they try to, and same thing in Atlanta, they trying to make him seem like they're mentally unfit, that they have issues. You had that police chief in Atlanta who said he was just having a bad day, uh, which I thought was utterly stupid for him to say that. Uh,
yeah.
Especially as a cop, of course, black men, we would never get that type of treatment. And then, it's interesting. I got to bring this up too. Uh, those massage parlors, by the way, are being investigated for prostitution rings up in Atlanta. It's outside of Atlanta, but it's in that area where he was. So I thought that was interesting, and maybe that may have some connection to what happened.
I,
Uh,
I believe it does because I believe he
yeah,
was going there for prostitution. I mean, this man had a sex addiction, and all those parts are glossed over. People don't really look at, because when I do my research on these beta males, I know that sexual addiction, sexual frustration, and sexual deviancy goes hand in hand with these guys. And he probably was not losing control over himself. They wanted to make it look like he was having a bad day. No, he wasn't having a bad day. He just couldn't, he was losing control. And the problem was he wanted to destroy these porn, not porn, but places, these massage parlors and sex places, because he felt he could not control himself. And I've seen this happen with lots of these beta males. So these mass shootings, they happen all over the place. And it just, people, they want to keep trying to cover it up and say it's one thing. but it has to do again with the way these males are raised and how they are taught to navigate life. Now, the situation in New Orleans, I had read that this guy, again, he was another beta male. I mean, he was just told to unload the firearm before he
Right.
came into the store, and he just goes berserk. And I think that, again, that happens because a lot of these guys, they have a problem with authority figures, and something must have snapped in him for him to do that. Because usually, when these beta males, whenever another male tells them to do something, that's when they go
Right.
crazy.
Well, let me say that too on that note because I actually shoot at a gun range. Different. I guess it's for different owners. The gun range I go to, which is out in Saint Bernard, I got one out in. There's also another one out in Slidell that I go to. They allow you, if you're a concealed carrier, to bring your gun in. They openly will allow you to carry your gun on you. You just cannot unload and discharge anything while you're in the lobby of the gun store. You can't pull your firearm out to to unload it. You have to wait till you get on the range and do that. Now, every gun shop is different. Every owner is different. So I don't know if he came in there with his gun in hand or what. It looked like from the video
From the
he was
video,
talking. From
from
the
the
video,
video,
he had it on his hip,
yeah, on the video I saw he had it in his hand.
in
So
his hand. Yeah.
yeah, and it was a fully loaded clip. So I guess
Oh,
they
once he
wanted,
pulled it out, yeah, you don't pull out your gun when you're in the lobby.
yeah, because he was in the inside of the store in the lobby of the store. They told him to unload the firearm because that could have been a danger to the customers and a danger to himself. And he just went crazy.
Yeah, he went crazy. Well, they took care of that problem.
Yeah, it was in a store full of people with firearms, and
He killed he killed a couple of them, injured some, and that's the wrong place to do a shootout at.
yep.
That in the donut shop.
Hmm. Yeah, where there's police officers with firearms.
Yeah, where there's police officers with firearms, and you black at that. And this is Jefferson, and you're in Jefferson Parish. This is Jefferson. Jefferson is not part of New Orleans. It's part of that area is the Metairie Kenner. I think it's Kenner where that was. But yeah, I'm familiar with it. So but I mean, it's a situation where he finds himself, like you say, a beta male that has a trouble with authority, and he opens fire on innocent people,
Yep.
and this happens. So, you know, I, we'll see where this stuff goes. People, I think, though, getting back to Biden and tying that in, you think people have some second thoughts about voting for him?
Oh, there's a lot of people who are having voters remorse right now. I mean, people, they have to
Yeah,
have voters remorse because you're not getting anything that you were promised with this Joe Biden. I mean, everything you asked for, you wanted control over the COVID-19 pandemic. That's not happening. You're not getting any sort of policies that benefit you as related to gas and like these pipelines and stuff. He messed that up. Now gas prices are up and a lot of people are out of work. I mean, a lot of things people thought they were going to get, they're not getting. And all people are getting is a worse screw job. I mean, people thought things were bad under Donald Trump because the media told them how much of a bad guy he was. And I'm no fan of Donald Trump. I thought he wasn't qualified to be president. But when we look at everything as related to Joe Biden, he's 10 times worse because, I mean, even the border is complete mess. I mean, that was one area Donald Trump did have under control. He had the border practically in line, and
yeah,
that's falling apart. And then we look at internationally, North Korea is acting up again. I mean, under Donald Trump, that was under control,
right.
and everything is falling apart under this guy. But the mainstream leftist media, they want to make it look like he's the bee's knees, but everything is crumbling around them. And again, that's just how deep in denial many are about this guy. And many black people, they're having serious voters remorse because after you voted for this guy and took your booty to the poll, he gave you absolutely nothing in terms of policy and our veterans are getting the biggest screw job because you have people who are not citizens getting $89 million of money sent to put them in illegal immigrants in a hotel, but no help for our veterans who are homeless who serve this country.
Yes, and that is a big problem there. We have veterans that are homeless that don't have money, don't have income, and we have illegal immigrants coming in here basically on the verge right now because the House passed that uh, American Dreamers Act by only a few votes and hasn't gone to the Senate as of yet. But uh, it's upsetting to see that. And then on top of that, here, when you're asking for we're talking about asking for tangibles for Black people, and we get people who say, well, they can't do anything specifically for Black people, but Asian Americans are getting this, Pacific Islanders. Biden is going down to Atlanta to talk to the Asian community along with Kamala Harris. There was an article actually that talked about our first Asian American vice president. See, she went back to being Asian real quick.
Yep.
Yeah, she went from being Black to Asian. I think by the summer she'll be Coblin Asian. She'll be Tiger Woods at that
Yes.
point. Yeah, and
She'll be a caramel Asian.
yeah, no bias, remorse. Take that, Diddy voice. I I don't. Chris, you voted for Biden? Or he's just talking about the Biden supporters.
Yeah.
All right. I want to do this. I know I got you for an hour. Uh,
Well, we can continue on for a couple more minutes.
well, I want to talk about this thing too, because Swollen Martin, bit, welcome to TV One. He got schooled by King Randall, and of course, Roland Martin was trying to attack this young man. I don't know if you seen this.
I haven't seen it.
Well, essentially, what happened was this is a brother who was on uh, King Randall. I actually spoke to him. He apparently has some school that's set up out in Georgia, and he was tweeting about how he wasn't interested in voting, and he's about doing for self and setting up his school. And when he tweeted that, Roland Martin apparently called him an idiot because he was talking about how he wasn't interested in voting. Now, I have learned some things subsequently about Mr. Randall that I'm not fond of. I know there are some tweets Tariq Nasheed had put out where he was praising, or not praising, but basically saying he's against reparations, supposedly, and he was against, he thought what happened with Rayshard Brooks, there was no crime or illegality that Rayshard Brooks actually instigate. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that he instigated that shooting. He escalated that whole thing, so nothing to be feel sorry about. But nevertheless, it's very clear just from looking at it that Roland Martin was trying to destroy this young man, and he got schooled. And he's had support lately from Dr. Boyce Watkins, from Judge Joe Brown. Uh, I saw him and Tariq Nasheed going at it, but let me just put the clip up if I could. It'll be a brief clip, but Roland was basically going at him over this about not voting. So let me put it up. Hold on. Let me put it up.
No. So when you say do for self, like what? Explain that. Okay. For example, here in Albany, Georgia, we complain about our school systems a lot. Many of our young men can't read. They have very horrible literacy rates. We don't have any rehab programs here for juvenile offenders. What I decided to do, I started a program 2 years ago, decided to do for self, and I started taking children into my home. I started taking custody of kids from juvenile court, and I started molding them and training them and teaching them skill trades, etc. Now I'm 21 years old. I just purchased a school here in Albany, Georgia, to combat us being in the government funded schools that are not teaching our children what they need to learn. So that's what I mean by do for self, simply getting up and going out and do it.
So
I beat the stereotype that I'm young, Black in America, and I can't do anything because somebody's holding me down. Absolutely not.
So a question.
Teenagers went and go ahead. Me and some teenagers went and bought a school, and we just bought a school bus simply from going out and doing work. We decided to go fix our own communities. I'm not expecting anything from no politician. I'm not expecting nothing from Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or nobody. We're gonna go do it for ourselves, and that's what I believe we need to be doing. I can vote, sure, but nothing's gonna change in our community.
So you went to.
So essentially, what happened is Roland is trying to school him about well, if you you get a school, that still requires the government. You're a damn fool if you don't vote, things of that nature. So yeah, I was trying to get your thoughts. Uh, that's just a clip, but it was like a 29. It was like a 25-minute, 30-minute interview 25-minute interview that they did, and Roland was getting schooled by this guy, by this kid. But what did you think so far, just from looking at it? If I can get your opinion.
Well, the young guy was doing what I would have done in the same thing. If you see your community's a mess, then you're going to have to come in and clean it up, because the only person who knows what's wrong is you, and the only person who can fix what's wrong is you. And the big problem with a lot of Black Americans is we keep waiting for the government to come in and
Mhm.
fix things. And when the government comes in, they don't know what's wrong. They don't know how to fix it. And no amount of voting is going to fix anything unless you have an agenda set for what you want to vote for. So when I look at this whole argument, it makes no sense, because why would a person vote for a party just on a ticket because somebody told you to do it if you don't have an agenda set up? And the only way you can start to work towards an agenda is when you start taking those steps to fix what's going on. And once you start fixing what goes on, then you can start laying out the bullet points for your agenda. Then you can go out here and pick your candidates. Then you can go out here and vote. But guys like Roland Martin, they're not about fixing anything. All they want to do is get their crumbs from the slave master's table. They want to get their little serving of cornbread or biscuits from the table. So they could care less about doing anything in the Black community. I mean, this kid schooled them, but it just shows how many of your buffer class Black people, they're not really about any sort of working towards improving the quality of life in the Black community or working towards any solutions. All they want to do is get paid at our expense, and all they want to do is keep the problems in the Black community going so they can continue to have a revenue stream for themselves.
Does it bother you that he is, I guess, and I didn't show you this, but to recant the tweets of the young man where he was basically supporting, well, I won't say he supported their deaths of Rayshard Brooks, but essentially he was saying that there was nothing to see with regards to Rayshard Brooks's killing. And he's, from what I'm hearing, is against reparations. They say he is actually an immigrant. He comes from an immigrant background. Does that bother you?
It does bother me to a point, but the whole problem is that guys who have these type of opinions, you have to educate them on what's going on here, because he doesn't understand that reparations is something that Black people deserve. I mean, Black Americans who are foundational like myself, we're not asking for just compensation for slavery. We're asking for compensation for the legacy of Jim Crow, which denied our fathers and grandfathers opportunities at equal employment. We're even asking for that reparations to deal with current and ongoing discrimination, which is what I'm dealing with right now in the job market. I mean, they don't understand the extents that Black people have been denied an opportunity to compete in this economy. I mean, we've watched as non-citizens have gotten breaks and gone into the middle class. We've watched as foreigners have gotten breaks and gone on to the middle class. But we've watched as our own economy has been taken from us, and when you don't really know what's going on. And in the case of Jacob Blake, he really didn't understand what was going on here. I mean, that was another case he didn't really understand. So a lot of these guys, they need to be schooled and educated on the bigger picture. And he's just a young guy, so he really doesn't understand things from the panoramic perspective that an older man like myself does. But some people you might be able to talk to and reason with and get them to understand and see the bigger picture.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I mean, look, I'll say this: he's 21 years old,
Yeah, he's a
so
kid.
he's a kid. So I'm not gonna come hard at him per se. I don't agree with his position, but with the Rayshard Brooks killing, I mean, those officers got fired because they escalated the situation by opening fire not only on Rayshard Brooks but also on those people that were in line at that drive-through at Wendy's. I believe one of the bullets actually hit their cars as well, and they could have been killed. You know, Rashard Brooks only had a taser. A taser under Georgia law does not constitute as a dangerous weapon. So the people who escalated this situation wasn't Rashard Brooks, it was the police. Now, was Rashard Brooks in the wrong for driving under the influence? Absolutely. Operating a vehicle, someone could have been killed as a result of that. So they did right stopping him, but did the officers have other options? Could they, if they used discretion, could they have returned him to his home? Yeah, they could have if they wanted to. Could they have driven his car to the house where he was? I mean, it's not this out of their boundaries, but I mean, they could have impounded his vehicle,
Yeah, they could have just
have him
easily.
go get it later,
There were
and they were in their right to arrest him. Yeah,
there were other ways to solve the problem. They didn't have to take out a weapon. The whole thing is that things were escalated once they took that weapon out. I mean, they could have called for backup and gotten backup because they said that area wasn't. It wasn't like a resident. It wasn't a residential area. It was more of a what is it like it's like a local area. So they could have called backup and got taken care of Rayshard Brooks without any sort of incident, and they didn't need to use any sort of firearms to go out here and bring down Rayshard Brooks. So when I
right.
look at that whole situation, I mean, yes, it was an out of control situation because Rayshard Brooks was under the influence, but there were ways to mitigate things, and had they just did some critical thinking, they could have easily contained the situation because firing in that area, they could have practically killed somebody in a vehicle or led to somebody getting scared and driving away and doing more harm. So they weren't helping anything by shooting at Rayshard Brooks. They just made the situation just that much worse.
Yeah, they did. Damn, I don't know who this is, but Therese got a picture up here. Bussy boy, crispy knowing I got my first. Oh, let me show you. The hell is this?
That's Malik Yoba. That's actor Malik Yoba, I think.
No, that's not him.
Oh, it's not him.
That's not him. I don't know who that is.
I don't know who it is either.
It could. I mean, it could have passed for Malik Yoba, but that's not him. I got my first boyfriend, y'all. I don't get. Ugh.
But this is the sad state of black males.
Shawn, do you ever fear? Let me ask you this. Oh, and let's do a black business owner shout out to. That's my friend Nicole's View. She's highlighted the black-owned beauty supply store alert called Black Label Beauty, and this is something black people need to get back into. We got to take back our hair market, our black beauty stores. We got to create our own supplies. I think it's important to do that. But yeah, shout out to them if they're in Frisco, Texas. But you know, we need stuff like that, you know, Shawn, especially when we deal with these racist Asians who are attacking black women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to shop at our own stores and shop for our own hair care. There was one time when blacks controlled the hair care market. I remember growing up as a kid in the
Yes.
80s, we owned our own hair care market. We owned our own barbers. But something happened with that boomer generation in the 90s. And eventually, what happened was his Dominicans took control of black male barbering, and Koreans took over black female hair care. And we have to take our markets back because these other groups, when they control our hair care, they want to take billions of dollars out of our community of the 3.3 trillion in cash and credit that we have. And that's all money that could be going back to us. And we need to make it go back to us because there's no reason for us to be shopping in these stores with these racist Koreans and Chinese who are beating up on black women. I mean, there's no need for our women to be abused in these stores. And we can do this. I mean, if we all just go out and support black owned businesses and put that money there, again, that's money going back to us to employ us. And it's also money that goes back to empower us and have us take control over parts of our own neighborhoods and our own communities.
Most definitely. Before you go, I want to show you this. Brother Bernard, shout out to him. He brought this to my attention that Rachel Levine, Dr. Rachel Levine, who's a pediatrician, was confirmed by the Senate and is one of the few openly transgender government officials in the United States. as the Assistant Secretary for Health. This happened yesterday. The Senate agreed to this. Uh, I wanted to know what's your position on it. Do you fear, because you and I have talked about the agendas that go on in Hollywood and the news media. Do you ever, I'm going to ask you, it's a twofold question. Do you fear backlash when you speak out against this stuff? And also, just what are your thoughts on it?
Um, I I feel like that's one of the most disturbing things I have ever seen in my life. I mean, these leftists may think it's progress, but I think it's quite troubling that this person is over our health division. And again, this person is over the control over the assistant secretary of health. And again, we have a person who has, as I see it, mental health issues controlling things. And people may think that it's progress, but I think it's like another one of those steps to the fall of the Roman Empire here in the United States. And it's something that's really troubling that for everybody, because this guy clearly he's not playing with a full deck. Now, when it comes down to consequences, sometimes you just have to stand up and say what needs to be said. I mean, as a follower of God, I'm going to stand up and say what needs to be said. It may offend some people to hear it, but sometimes you just got to tell people the truth. And in this world, again, when as a follower of God, I have to tell the truth and go with that truth and not worry about the consequences, because I know that God is with me, and I know that he would not want to be, to just be silent, because that's what the Pharisees and the Sadducees were. They sat there and they were silent about things, went along with Rome and its deviancy and debauchery, and they knew better, but then they just wanted to go along so they could impress those Roman emperors, but they didn't want to hold themselves accountable to the God that they said that they served. And then when the Son of God came to them, he called them out for the hypocrites they truly were. So I'd rather go out here and tell that truth and be right in the eyes of the Lord than go out here and make statements that are just going to be justified by these people who are so-called woke, but they are just the same as have this. They're as I see it, making the same recipe of bread like the Pharisees and the Sadducees did, and practically were taking their own civilization straight into ruin.
Yeah, I'm with you. Damn the consequences. Just take it like a man's for speaking uh, on behalf of God, and also just on behalf of on men, because men have to be men and women have to be
Yeah,
women. And people who, I've always felt people that do that, there's something wrong with them personally inside. I think that they are unhappy. The word gay, by its very definition, means to be happy.
yeah,
And that's why they started calling themselves that. And, in truthfulness, from people I know who are in that lifestyle, most of them come from uh, tragic, have tragic stories. They come from backgrounds that are not so great. They've experienced trauma. Uh, that's not
yeah.
a good.
Yeah, many of them have been sexually abused. Many of them have been molested, and many of them just aren't happy. Many of them, they have mental health problems because they won't acknowledge the problems in their life. They won't acknowledge the things that they've gone through. They want to talk about pushing for rights, but the whole thing is that they're not, there's stuff that they have not resolved, because when I look at many of them, many of these people are miserable, and they just look to make other people miserable, or they look to indoctrinate people into their cult-like frame of thinking.
Yeah. Donald is saying, I think I'm reading this right. He says, if you watch, I think he says he means to say Biden's first press conference, which was today. It was all female reporters that got to ask questions. They had only two male reporters.
Because they didn't want anybody to ask critical questions. They know that women are just going to ask fluffy questions. They're going to ask light questions. They're not going to ask hard journalist questions, and they're not going to ask questions that make people think critically. They basically wanted to lob softballs at Joker Joe so that they could make him think people feel good about him. So that's why they had a whole bunch of females there. And the whole thing is that they love bringing females in, because females really, they just want to just say things that people want to hear and ask really light questions, whereas a man's going to ask extra hard questions and challenge people, and they don't want this guy to be challenged in any way, shape, or form.
No. And I didn't see the press conference, but I'm guessing the questions were softball. Those that watched it, because Biden, somebody even wrote this that he looks out of it. Like I have people saying the White House is now the big nursing home because Biden is 79 years old. I mean, he's incoherent about stuff. He's tripping on stairs.
Yeah, his brain
Like I
is.
said,
He's not all there. He's
well,
just.
it's like I said, it's like having Lloyd Bridges from Hot Shots as president.
Yep. It's one
Uh,
big scheme, and it's going to blow up in their face because our people and our enemies, they're going to see us as weak. They already see us as weak. I mean, North Korea sees us as weak. Russia sees us as weak. And if he stays in office or he steps down, they're still going to see us as weak because Kamala Harris is not strong enough. They don't see her as a strong leader. I mean, what's sad is your Donald Trump is seen as a stronger leader than both of these two by the international community, and they don't see how weak the country is overall. I mean, we have beta males in the state house, beta males in the White House, females. It's just a really bad situation. And most people don't see how bad this is for our country because the big picture, we're in a lot of trouble.
Look what Rosalind wrote. Oh my God, Biden is coffin ready.
Hmm, that's
Gotta
cold.
be careful with what you say because he's still a president, and you don't want to say. I
Stuff.
know you're making a threat, but the Secret Service can always come up here. So we're not threatening the president,
No.
but so please be.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you say on these platforms because they'll come after you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Sean, I won't keep you much further. I do want to ask you something when we get off and the live ends. If anybody had any questions for Sean, let me know right fast before he gets out of here. He's got to run. But y'all check out the John Haynes series, the new John Haynes series, Taking Care of Business, which is on Amazon.com. And also, he has several other books, including The Man Crisis. I think it's important to read that because that's where we are today. He also has Why 70% of Black Females Are Single, which is available. Y'all should check that out. And I mean, I got 30 people on in the room, man. We've had probably more than that have come by, all on my YouTube channels. Thank y'all, Facebook, Periscope. Sean, I'll let you have the last word if you got anything you want to say.
Well, all I'm going to say is I just need one more sale of John Haynes Taking Care of Business to meet double digits. And I'm asking everybody to, head over to Amazon and pick up a copy of John Haynes to Taking Care of Business. I really want to keep this John Haynes series moving in a positive direction. So every sale that I get gives me an opportunity to go out here and further increase the quality of the SJS Direct imprint and bring more quality products that present positive images of Black people and the Black experience to readers. So I'm asking everybody to head over to Amazon, pick up a paperback or a digital copy of John Haynes Taking Care of Business or any other books on the SJS Direct imprint.
All right, we'll do that. Thank you, Sean, for tuning in. And before I go, I'm just curious with the latest movies, movie theaters are starting to back up. They have the movie Nobody that's coming out. Sure, you've seen previews for it already. It has about 86% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, although Rotten Tomatoes is not always reliable. Look what they did with the Dave Chappelle special. But that's because Dave wasn't going with the agenda, if you know what I mean by agenda. But I was interested in wondering, were you gonna see that film, or
I'd have to take a look at the trailer. I haven't looked at it yet.
you never looked at the trailer?
No, I've been gone for a while, so
Okay, hold on. Do you have time to look at the trailer right quick?
I have time. I can take a quick look.
Okay, it's the same guys who created the same man who created John Wick has created this series, including Nobody. It's called Nobody, and it stars Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul's Bob Odenkirk. So he's playing a retired assassin, I guess it appears, but this is the trailer for the film. So I don't know if you can see it. Hold on. You can hear it. Hold on. Can you hear this?
Can't hear it.
Can you hear that?
Not yet.
You can't hear it? Okay, hold on. Let me stop it and I'll replay it. Rewind it. So basically, if John Wick had a family.
Yeah. Which
I don't know.
reminds me of many of the action movies I used to watch in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah. So
They
it's
don't
something you would.
I'd take a look at it. I mean, I used to watch all these type of movies in the 80s and the 90s when I was a teenager in my young adult years. I mean, that's what we used to watch. That was the type of masculinity we used to watch all the time. So that's what it looked like to
Yeah,
me.
yeah. I remember back in the day, what Commando,
Yeah,
Predator, Rambo, Missing
yeah,
in Action, the Chuck Norris movies. I liked even Wesley Snipes when he did Passenger 57.
yeah. That's what we used to watch all the time. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone. That's what it reminded me of. We haven't had those type of
Bruce
movies.
Willis, Die Hard, yeah.
Yeah, people get superhero movies instead, but we used to get these type of movies, and it looks like they're trying to make that type of movie again, and it looks interesting. I'll say I
Yeah.
would take a look at it if it came around.
Right. Does your are the movie theaters back open where you at?
They're only at 25% capacity, and
Yeah.
I'm still doing stuff through streaming. I'm still trying to get people to still, spend. They want me to go see the Justice League movie, but I want them to pay for the HBO Max because these things are expensive.
That they are. They can be costly. I get stuff from, Hulu and
Yeah,
so forth and Apple TV. Yeah, they could be expensive. They're good. But I mean, what you could do is just subscribe for it for a brief period and then unsubscribe later.
that's what
Because
I've
they
been
don't
doing.
yeah. The Justice League movie was pretty good though. The Zack Snyder cut.
Yeah. Well,
It was just
I might take a look at it this weekend.
it was long.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. It was longer than The Godfather. That's the only thing. But yeah, man. But all right, bro. I won't keep you, man. I appreciate it. That might be taking a look at that, and I'll do a movie review
All right.
on it. But Shawn, thanks for tuning in. Everybody, y'all check out Taking Care of Business, the latest in the John Haynes series. Uh, support our brother Shawn James. Also support me at the Cash App. You see it right there, Gavin Richard Esquire. That's the Cash App. Shawn, it was great that you came on, especially early, to have you on a early Thursday. So I appreciate it, brother.
All right.
All right, and if you could just stay, I had a question to ask you offline.
All
But
right.
guys, that's it for me. I appreciate it. Shout out to Unsunken One, PD Chicago, B1, Latisse Robinson, Roslyn. Uh, I haven't seen my brother Squeaky G in a while. I wonder if he's there. Shout out to King BJ, to Derek Bailey, and Donald Washington. If I don't mention everybody, it's my head, not my heart. But that's it, guys. Y'all Thank you for tuning in to Gavin Richard Presents on channel G-Boot 2786 on Gavin Richard and on Facebook and on Twitter. I'll holla. Peace out, guys.